for Startups, live from Startup Grind Global Conference in Redwood City, California. I'm Whitney Dermick, and my guest is Derek Anderson, the founder and CEO of Startup Grind. Derek, thank you for having us.
Yeah, excited to be here, and we're like right in the midst of it with the noise and people and everything, so we're right here in the war zone.
Yes, we are. Thank you for allowing us to set up this nice chunk of real estate, too.
That's awesome. Yeah, thanks for being here.
So, Startup Grind was one of Oracle for Startups' first partnerships back in 2017. And I think even in that short period of time, the relationship between a startup and an enterprise has changed drastically. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Look, the thing that we've always loved about working with Oracle is that, we've been aligned in how we want to help entrepreneurs, and that there wasn't really this, precondition around who they were or what they were when we helped them. We were just going to do whatever we could to support them, and we've tried dozens of different things over the years to support them. And Startup Grind's ethos is about, giving more than you take, helping others before you help yourself, and making friends. And I think, with the team and with the program that Oracle has for startups, it's been, really refreshing to just have those things coming together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in a world of so much technology and so much going on, ultimately it comes down to people. Mm-hmm. So Startup Grind building communities around the world, Oracle for Startups, supporting startups no matter where they are with a virtual program, that is a shared ethos. What do you think it is that startups really need to succeed in this world right now?
Well, the earliest startups, they need the first thing, they need to have a great team. You need to have people. It's the companies are made up of people, so you need to have just really, really solid first team members that have complementing skill sets. You need to be solving a real problem, and that can sometimes be hard for some people who are trying to figure out how to break into creating a startup.
Yep.
But you need to solve a real problem, and it needs to have customers in a market that can support it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, once you have those things, I think that's sort of been the same for the last many decades, or maybe since the beginning of company building. Today, look, you've probably got to get some level of funding to get off the ground, or especially a technology product. The market is so hot for engineers. It's very hard to get engineers to, want to work for sweat equity, or,
sure.
You can't just, work on the weekends almost anymore, because we're all working all the time. So, you've got to be able to raise funding. Mm-hmm. You've got to be able to do something that's going to bring a new component to the market. We've got tons and tons of talks here this week about Web3.
Yep.
And about DAOs and crypto and, tokenomics and so many other different things. And so hopefully you're building something that is, sort of glimpse into the future.
Sure.
You've got to have grit. I mean, there's so much going on in the world. I think it's harder than ever to get a startup going. Mm-hmm. We've seen actually some numbers with startups dropping in some cases because it's just, there's so much on everyone right now. Yeah. It's like, do I need one more thing? And so you've got to, really, really want to do it. And
yep.
You're going to have to persevere.
Right. Yeah, it's not called Startup Relax. It's Startup Grind.
That's right.
So speaking of that, I saw a session yesterday with Arlen Hamilton and Annie Grace on the main stage that was about productivity and your relationship with alcohol, which really, it was a conversation less about technology and more about mental health and wellness. Why did you think that was an important message to get out to your attendees?
I mean, look, everyone in the whole world is dealing with mental health issues. Mm-hmm. I don't know anyone that says like their mental health's never been better is lying, So even people that never had mental health issues are having mental health issues.
Yeah.
So the psyche of being in a startup where it feels like most of the time it feels like the sort of walls are about to cave in around you at any point.
Yeah.
On top of compounding the other things, it's just it's an incredible amount of weight.
Yeah.
And so I loved that she was talking about it. Usually at a tech conference, you're not speaking about mental health. You're not speaking, about these kind of things. So I sat through it. I was taking notes. Arlen has this amazing book, and I think hopefully people that come to this event are taking the time for themselves and their teams to try to, I know one phrase that I've heard is defend your health. It's really hard in the startup to defend your health, but you'll never make it to the end of the journey if you don't.
Right. Yeah, Arlen actually coined a new term in our conversation, mixing health and wellness, and it was mental wealth. And I think we got to keep that one, because health really is wealth. We're coming out of a really interesting time where it has been really mentally stressful, and now getting back into the world is like very overstimulating. I'm wondering if you and your family created any habits during the pandemic that you're going to keep.
That's really interesting. I have 4 small children aged between 13 and 4. And we spent a lot of time together in California lockdown. And we had 3 kids on Zoom through the whole thing. I had my son in my garage with me working the entire pandemic. In that way, in some ways, like, we were really privileged and fortunate to be able to spend copious amounts of time together. I hope, maybe it was probably too much time, but I hope that for us, that we just, and speaking to you, I'm thinking maybe we should set it in stone and hey, this is what we're gonna do every week. But I think and I hope we're gonna spend more time together. And the other thing is, one thing at least for me is I'm not putting things off anymore. Anything that I was I'm gonna do that here, I'm gonna do that in 3 or 4 or 5 years. I'm not doing it anymore. I'm doing it right now. There's a place I want to go. There's something I want to do. It's just we don't know what's going to happen. So just go do it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's something that hopefully I think our family has tried to really implement now in what is somewhat back to normal.
Yeah, love that. Go to Fiji, take a jiu-jitsu class, start a startup.
Go to Fiji. Tokariki is the best resort in Fiji. I'm just saying, go look it up. It's
Shout
amazing.
out to Tokariki. Awesome. So, final question. We're at the Startup Grind Conference. There's so much great technical conversation about, like you said, Web3, DAOs, crypto, this great stuff. How do you find the signal in the noise of all of this technological conversation?
I just personally, I'm not really good at faking things that I am excited about. So there's a lot of it that I'm frankly not excited about. I just don't care. It doesn't make me want to lean in. But there are certain pieces of it that do. And so I think, over time you see the things you resonate with. Look, there's certain foods you might like, there's certain sports you might like, certain kinds of movies you might like, certain kinds of books. Those are the things you lean on. It's the same thing with technology. What are the things that get you thinking about it really late at night and really excited to work on it first thing in the morning?
Yep.
For me, with Web3, it's around DAOs, which are these community-led organizations that give, for the first time, members of the community power and an opportunity to have a say in what's happening inside of a company. That's never been possible. And that's sort of how we built Startup Grind. We just didn't have a legal structure or an entity or really a name for it. We just built what we thought made sense. So when I started hearing about that, it's this new thing. I'm like, wow, that makes so much sense. We should do that. We already are doing that. And so our building community, I love building community. A lot of people are talking about it. I really resonate with that. So whatever makes you lean in, whatever makes you sort of want to really work hard on that, focus on that and signal, push out the other stuff.
So if people want to learn more about the Startup Grind DAO, what should they do? Where should they go?
It's the sgdao.com.
Great.
And we're going to fund 30 companies this year and do everything we can to help them be successful. We're going to get those companies from the community all around the world that are submitting them. And hopefully we'll be back here in a few years with many of those companies on stage telling their story.
Well, we absolutely love being a partner of Startup Grind. Is there anything that Oracle can do to be a better partner? Or to just keep this relationship going the way it's going?
We need to do more videos. I don't know how this compares to the other videos you've had. Maybe it's a mini-series, me and you just going event
Fiji.
to event. See, yeah. We can go, if you want to go to Fiji, we can go to Fiji and do it. Oracle, thank you for making that possible.
Cool.
No, we love working with you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Derek. I appreciate your time. All right, to learn more about the Oracle for Startups program and our partner Startup Grind, you can head to oracle.com/startup and check out their DAO.